in action. We really do need Ubuntu in action in the world that we are in today. I really think that we need to stop using just jargon for the sake of using jargon and actually see it come to light and in reality. This is about hospitality with soul, something that we really need to do within the hospitality industry, because our thing is humans and dealing with people. The moderator is Mmatšatši Ramawela, Managing Director at Africa Tourism Connect. So a round of applause, please, as Mmatšatši makes her way to stage.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's see who went for the run this morning.
No one.
Run, walk, same thing. You didn't run?
I went from the sky to the west.
Nah, Philip. He always runs every year, so I wonder what happened this year. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying, because we know traditionally the third day of the conference, a lot of people duck. So we don't know whether they are ducking for back home to their offices or they're ducking to go and conclude some of the business deals. And you know what my preference is. It's to conclude the business deal, so we're happy. So the next year we can hear that there were some great deals that were done here. So my name is Mmatšatši Ramawela. So pleased to be here with you. We know we pressed for time this morning because a lot of you have to duck as well because it's the end of the conference. We are going to, the three of us here are going to have a discussion with yourselves, of course, involved around the concept of Ubuntu in action. And it's called, you saw the title, Ubuntu in Action, Hospitality with the Soul. So we're going to have a conversation here that hopefully you can join, so that we begin to see if we have the same understanding of what Ubuntu means and the relevance of a concept like that in this event that we're having today. So let me introduce my fellow panelists that are here. Tim and Duprette, who are going to join into the discussion and share their own views in terms of what is their understanding and therefore what is relevant for it for us here this morning. So we are going to allow you to also ask us some questions, which is very, very critical, so that it's a wholesome discussion. It's not a talk from the stage to you, but it's also yourself sharing your views as well, which the organizers of the conference appreciate as they develop the program for future events. So to start off, I want to ask the two panel, but I'm going to start with this one. She's a South African. I want to find out, what is your understanding, Duprette, about Ubuntu?
Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Ubuntu for me, Ubuntu is I am because we are. And in hospitality, that is so important, especially for our community around us. What I can do that makes you stronger, and when you are stronger, I am stronger. And so that's my understanding of Ubuntu, of making us truly South African, truly special, truly about giving my soul to you so that you can endeavor and become more powerful, more better than what you are. And together we can grow and become powerful. So
would you say, as an African, in South Africa, would you say that the Ubuntu concept, as we've explained it, we will get to Tim, so he gives his take, what Ubuntu means to him. Would you say is it applicable across cultures? Is it a philosophy that you find in every culture? And if not, what is it that is similar to Ubuntu? Or are we in Africa just making a big deal out of it? It is something that is everywhere.
I don't think it's everywhere. I think it is truly South African, not South African, African as such. And the story I related was I was overseas as a student. I had some coins in my hand. I was standing ready to buy my baguette in Paris, and I dropped my coins. And in South Africa, when I dropped my coins, the person behind me would have picked them up and given it to me. And I found in Paris they didn't give it to me. And I was very offended because that's not the way we do it in South Africa. That's not how I know it. I know that we share. I know that it's about yours that he would have given me the coins. I would have then bought the baguette and probably shared it with him afterwards. But that's not always the philosophy that's in other cultures. So I would say that's a specific reference, but in general, I think it's a very unique thing in Africa. It's especially for Africa, and that's because we grew up in communities where we needed to support each other constantly. I find that other cultures have become a little bit dislocated amongst each other, and that they don't live in each other's spaces as much as we do, where we are constantly being approached by people that are no longer as fortunate as us and that we would share. That is my opinion on it.
Okay, Tim, what about you? What is your understanding of this thing called Ubuntu? What have you heard people saying, what it means? And therefore, the same questions. Would you say it's a principle that you find in all cultures? In what form or shape do you find it?
No, first of all, I think after that example, I'm very happy to say I'm not French. No, for me, I think Ubuntu is, I'm obviously not South African, but I think the way I see it is, it could be as simply defined as humanity. Is a common sense that we all belong to one ecosystem, to one community, and is this idea of interacting, exchanging for the better together, and this idea of, and this is driven by compassion, driven by empathy, and ultimately, so having defined that as humanity, do I believe there's humanity in every culture? Yes, definitely. But I think it comes in different shapes and forms, and with nuances. And I think at the end of the day, some cultures are a bit more individualistic than others, but I think, especially in moment of crisis, that's where you see that key aspect, fundamental aspect of Ubuntu in every culture, and community is driving together and coming back stronger. So I do believe there is some shape of Ubuntu in every culture, but yeah, different shapes and form.
So what do you call it in French, Ubuntu? Ubuntu is a Zulu word, down in the south. So what would you call this in your French tradition?
It's a good question. I think we'll call it Ubuntu as of now.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for that. So, the audience sitting here, they're asking themselves, yeah, we are in an investment conference. We are about signing deals here. Hospital. I'm looking at Trevor here. He's actually thinking, yeah, this is a very nice thing, but please make it relevant to us. I mean, I'm here signing deals and, to build the next hotel somewhere else in the continent as part of developing the continent. What would you say? Would you say that Ubuntu is equal to hospitality, or is it different?
So I wouldn't say it's equal to hospitality, but I would say it shares the same fundamental. And I say ultimately, hospitality, you welcome people, you're equal, you share whether it's a meal, whether it's a stay or an experience. But I'd say if I had to describe it, Ubuntu is a lot more of a global concept in every step of the society and life. So maybe the way I would put it is if Ubuntu was an orchestra, hospitality would be one of the instruments.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
Yes, very
and
nice.
Duprette, what about you?
I agree. I think hospitality and Ubuntu are two separate things, but they're interwoven between each other. I think that we take snippets of everything. The difference being, though hospitality comes with money, Ubuntu doesn't come with money. Ubuntu comes with a deep understanding of society and moving society along, whereas hospitality moves money along because we know we need it. It's not as though we can do without it, and it's desperately needed in South Africa because it's such a fundamental industry that can move people and help with employment. So for me, it's interwoven, but it's not exactly the same.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So we are in an investment conference again. People are here about signing deals. So what is the relevance of Ubuntu in this kind of environment, with this kind of people that you see here, the kind of languages that, and it's been spoken, the discussion that has been going on throughout the 3 days. What would you say is the relevance of having a discussion about Ubuntu here? Let's start with you, Tim.
It's huge, I think, and especially if you compare, the life cycle of a hotel, right? There's two aspects. You have the development part and then the operation. And I think what we've seen, and we've seen in multiple of examples, whether across Africa or across the world, when you don't get that Ubuntu aspect, meaning you're not becoming part of a community. You don't get the buy-in of the local community. They don't understand, how they're also, because a hotel, it's a people business. And not only, we benefit as hotelier from amazing, whether it's the culture, whether it's the landscape, whether it's the site or anything, but it's important to give back. And if we don't give back, whether it's in terms of employing, helping schooling, for example, helping building infrastructure, because building a hotel in a middle of somewhere a bit less developed, help building infrastructure. And if we don't have the buy-in from the day one, that can not only delay the development of a project, which is extremely costly on the investment side of it, or the project cannot happen at all potentially. And then when you look at the operation side, people today, especially after COVID, look for experiences. So if you come to South Africa, you want to discover South Africa, and you want to interact with locals, and if you don't have that, and that drives volume, that drives business, and that drives guests that comes again, and ultimately generates more profit for the investor.
Just to probe a little further, I know we are limited for time. Again, Tim, you are in Accor is involved in a deal, with there's an owner that is here, project sponsor, people with money and all this. And someone says to you, where does Ubuntu feature in all that? Where will you have it feature? In what form or shape?
So the way I look at it is, our role as a company and the reality is to generate value for our partners, but for our society as well. And I think that's a conscious that the company has taken a while back, and every company is taking now. And I think, when you look at generate value, what does it mean? If you look, we have a brand, for example, like Mentis, where the Mentis stands for Man and Nature Together is Sustainable. Meaning that really each hotel creates a foundation to support, for example, the rhinos, or depending on where it's located. On Friday, I was on a call with our GM of the firm Samara for purely financial reason to understand how it was performing. But I asked him, what are you doing for your local community? And I was very pleased so they developed 2 schools that they opened actually last week, 2 classrooms. They're integrating, so they're part of the conservancy, helping collecting and develop the conservancy and the infrastructure. And so what it created is that one of the main feedback of the guests is now that they love that hotel. Why? Because they interact with the local community, and the local community is actually part of the hotel. It's not a hotel in a location, but it's a whole ecosystem altogether.
Wonderful. Duprette, same thing to you. So again, relevance of this concept in this conference. You are a first-time, attender of this conference. What would be your response?
Well, Nelson Mandela actually said, Ubuntu is not Ubuntu is not about not enriching ourselves, but how we can have an effect on the community and improve them. So for us, or me as a hotel owner, it's all about the community. It's all about making them stronger around me. So what we do, we get local police enforcement, and we actually bring them to the hotel for a weekend because we believe in mental health, and they're under so much pressure at the moment with so much going on. And we bring them in, about 12 of them, and we actually give them a weekend where they get a mental break, where psychologists come in, they play games, they have massages, they just relax and understand why they're doing the job that they're doing. The other thing we do with our staff, one of our staff members' fathers passed away, and it's very common in African tradition that when someone passes away, that the family needs to host the rest of the community for the funeral. And so we will sponsor the food and go out and just help the staff members so that it's just something off their plate. And again, in the spirit of Ubuntu.
Well, thank you so much. I know that we're limited for time, so I've got one last question for each one of you as we close off. But let's invite our audience. As we said when we started, this is not all about us conversing here. What is your take on this discussion and the topic that we have here? Anybody who's got questions for us? Okay, there's a hand here, one hand here.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
It's sort of interesting, obviously. I mean, hospitality itself, the word is about soul when you think about it. So I think we should reflect on why did we lose over the years the soul? Is it because we've become corporatized? I sit on the board of a hospitality group out of Mauritius, and the founder has always said, if you're not on the ground, you're not with your people, with your guests. And even city hotels do that very often. You see city hotels, the GM, you never see the GM around, right? They're always in the back office. So I think we as players should reflect, how do we bring that soul back? Because people are asking for that soul back in hospitality.
Very good point, absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other question?
Sorry.
Comment, like he gave us a comment. And essentially he's reminding us to say, let's not forget, in us chasing the money, we are still human beings. Where's that humanity factoring in everything that we do? That's essentially, this session was meant for that. Tanya and the team, thought that let's bring the humanity back into what we do. We all need money to survive, but we lost the reason why we're making money in the first place. Because then, like you said, we left the soul. Where did we leave it? Let's go and find where we left it and go and pick it up, because it's very important in everything that we do. Anybody else before as we round off our discussion? You can interrupt us as we go on. I'm just going to go back to Tim and say, talk to us about how you apply this Ubuntu concept in Accor, especially in your section where you look after luxury brands. When we were preparing for this discussion yesterday, we were talking about, where do you see Ubuntu being applied? In a 5-star environment, how does it play out? As opposed to a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. And then we had this thing that says, is it about money? Do people with money who stays in the 6-star, 5-star properties, do they not want humanity in the soul? Do they don't want to interact with people? Or how does it work? So hence I'm asking this question to Tim so that he can share with you from an Accor point of view, and especially in this division. How does he see this play out? How do they apply it?
No, again, money does not have anything to do with it. I think no matter whether it's a luxury hotel, it's a 1-star or 2 stars, we're in the people business, and humanity should apply all across the board. I think, but as a hotel company, and even a hotel, if you look the example of a hotel, right? Yeah. There's very limited aspect of a business where you'll see in one building, you'll see all the colors of society. You'll see, the GM that probably did the fanciest school in maybe in Switzerland or MBA somewhere.
Like
from
yourself. You went to the school.
Yeah, but I'm not a GM, unfortunately. But to someone that didn't have that opportunity, so we have that chance and opportunity to help bringing everyone together. So the analogy I like is to say a hotel is basically a ship, where you have every aspect of society. We need to learn how to get everyone in line to drive to the same goal, to the same understanding, to understand each other. So that helps as well bridging the gap in society as a whole. And we had that opportunity when it comes to Ubuntu and what surrounds the hotel to impact positively and exchange and hopefully support and bring that authenticity as well with our local community. So basically, as a hotelier, the way I look at it, we're basically the captain of a ship, but we have the opportunity to try to calm down the wave of the sea around us. So it's a important task. I don't think it's an easy one, but I think humanity should remain at the center of what we do, because that's the core of our business.
So thank you so much. And Duprette, you did give us that example, but I know when I was at your lodge some time ago, last year, same time, I think almost last year, at Sanbonani, they have this thing that when the delegates, the guests leave, the staff sing as to send off. The send off the guests. So, I just thought, Duprette can just, how do you apply it as we're running off our discussion? How do you apply this principle, within your hotel group?
again, it was not something that I initiated. It was something that the staff initiated. And it was the staff that came to me and said, could we send them off? And it's the most beautiful thing in the morning when they're singing and they're dancing and they're saying thank you. And it is the most pivotal point of any tourist. It's not the coming, it's the going. Because when that tourist leaves, it's the last memory that they take of your place. And so with this beautiful entourage of housekeepers and everybody dancing and singing and praising, it is just such an energy-filled space in that moment in time, and it's beautiful.
Lovely. As we close our discussion, before we get chased out of this unceremonious send-off from the stage, what advice, both of you, this is the same question that applies to all of you. She's a tough cookie, so we don't want to be sent off. What advice would you give, Tim, to your fellow brands that are here, the people who are busy signing the deals? What advice would you give from an Ubuntu point of view in terms of how we do business? How do we fetch the soul back, if indeed is what your reference will be? Literally, what advice would you give from this session as we sign off?
No, I think it's to not forget we're part of a greater community and a whole. And I think we're fortunate to be in a beautiful industry and to work on beautiful projects. But it's to not understand, it's to not forget that the human capital and people are at the core of what we're doing. And really, that's what it's all about, whether it's in terms of guests, of a partner, or employee, or just the community we're part of.
But Tim, we're in the business of making money.
Of course, but
So
one doesn't mean you cannot have the other.
Duprette, what about you?
I would say look for opportunities within the scope of your hotel. We did a car wash where we have empowered local guys to come in to wash the cars of the guests. And the money he takes home is his money. It's not, it's a benefit for me because I have a car wash on site, but at the same time, it is money he gets to take home, and my guest is appreciative of the fact that he doesn't have to drive somewhere to get his car washed. Look for those little opportunities. The safari desk that we have at site is not mine. I give it out to another operator that would run the safaris, because with him doing his business and being strong in that field, it makes my business strong. And again, I am because you are.
I am because you are. That's the philosophy for me that runs throughout all of us as human beings. I gave an example yesterday when we were preparing for this session that says, when I grew up, I knew that in our household, that the best china in the house was kept for the visitor. If there was a time when because we destitute, I was brought up by a single parent, we had meat once a month. So the time when I see us eating meat, second time in a month, there's a visitor in our household. And so the story around is to say, a visitor, come to our house so that we can have the best food in town. Yeah? And that's how I grew up. In my language in Sotho, so visitor, please come to our house. Don't go next door, because my mother will slaughter that chicken. We will go and have that white bread, because the white bread was priced than brown bread. And that's the story of Ubuntu, where it comes from, ladies and gentlemen. And so what we are saying as we sign off from this date is that let's go and fetch the soul and let it fuse into everything that we do, the deals that we do, because that's what will take humanity to the next level. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for my panel.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.